Thank you. Well, I am Susan Cook. I'm the Chief Ranger at Homestead National Monument of America, our national park site just west of town. We were so proud to be able to help partner in bringing this to Beatrice and making this happen here. Quilting, as you know, is a huge part of the pioneer life, whether it was male or female. Everybody was using quilting because you just didn't go buy it. So we also want to talk about the importance of women homesteaders. We've been doing a study with the University of Nebraska. We have new research. They actually just released a book, and 5 textbook companies are now rewriting history related to homesteading and women as a result of what they learned. One of the things we knew is you had to be the head of a household in order to file a homestead claim. Our park represents those 4 million people who filed claims. We now know that there were at least 10% of them were women, single women filing claims. You didn't have to stay single, you could get married right after you filed your claim. But what you had to fight though is that if you got married right afterwards, in 5 years they were proving up your claim, they wanted to give it to your husband, not you. So you have to fight for it. But what we learned, not only do we have that many women homesteading, but we also learned that the role was much larger than anybody realized before or even acknowledged. They were kind of written out of history. And what was happening is that you have these women, they didn't do the backbreaking labor of breaking the ground, removing stumps, removing stones, those kind of things. They were hiring the homestead men that lived around them. Because the women were going to town and they were a seamstress, they were cleaners, they were a cook. There were jobs women could do in town. And what that did was it gave enough money for those neighbors to stay on their land too. Because the most important thing to homesteaders was that everybody be successful. You wanted your neighbors to be successful because that meant you had your support system. They didn't have Social Security, insurance, and stuff like that like we have today. Their security system and their insurance were their neighbors and their families. And so this was very important to be able to keep everybody on their farms. So that's why we're very proud to be a part of this today. And we hope you come out and visit our park and learn more about some of the new, we have more research going on with the university, so there's a lot of new things we're learning and sharing with the general public. So thank you and enjoy the play today.
It's always fun to have Susan because I've always enjoyed working with her. When we started doing our barn quilt workshops, Susan asked me, she said, would you be willing to do a workshop? And we said, sure. And I'm sure we had some of you in our workshops. Well, one workshop ended up being 15, so that's why we have so many pretty barn quilts around. I'm Kay McKenzie, and I want to welcome you to our play. We are so excited. I don't know if you realize, but the Quilters program was done in Broadway, on Broadway. It has been done at the Lead Center. It has been done at the Orpheum in Omaha. And so I think it's very exciting that with John's help and Southeast Community College and the Beatrice Area Arts Council, we're bringing a play that was in New York and Omaha and Lincoln to Beatrice. How about that? And I have to say that one of the reasons that I think we can do this is you've heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. I think in our case, it's taken a community to put on a presentation called the Quilters. Because I want you to take a minute to look at the back of your program, either tonight or tomorrow before you throw it away, and acknowledge see all the people that we acknowledge there. We have a whole host of people. Everyone that I asked, would you help us do this? I had a yes from every single person in every single group. So I think our community can be very proud of their willingness to participate in a program like this. And we thank you all for coming. I am so excited. You know, when we started, John and I started, we had zero money. So we didn't know how we were going to pull this off. And I kept saying to Larry, if we get a little bit more money, then I only have to sell this many tickets. So this was very exciting that all of you are here. So I'm going to quit talking. And this is John Gruitt. John is our man that made this all happen. There you go, John.
And I'm in charge of performing arts for the Southeast Community College region. So I would like to just tell you a little bit about why I chose to do this production. So I've known of this production or this play and had seen the performances of this musical at several different places in the United States.
John,
previously.
could you use the microphone, please?
Sure. And so I thought, I really can relate to this piece in many different levels. The main one, I think, is because of how of the people that I was brought up with. I was fortunate enough to know my great-grandmother, who was a pioneer in Nebraska. And so she knew first-hand encounters with Ponca Indians. And when she was 5 years old, she was in charge of watching the milk cow, and she was this high, and the grass was that high. Good reason to put the bell on the cow, don't you think? And so she told me about so many different aspects of pioneer life. And so when I read the script, I thought, yeah, I know that from talking with her about that. And I knew it from my grandmother, who was, for all intents and purposes, really a tomboy, wearing the bloomers made out of flour sacks, and the blouse made out of flour sacks on her buckskin horse, and man, she was getting on that and going crazy, So then there's so many different instances which are related in this play, which I know that many of you can relate to as well. If you didn't experience it firsthand, you heard about it from your relatives and your forebears in this part of the country. And so it is to that spirit of those pioneers that we dedicate this show. Thank you.
Do you remember this? This was a piece of my wedding dress. Love, laughter. Mama kept absolutely everything in here.
My name is Sarah McKendry Bonham. I have lived a long time, and I have made a heap of quilts. This last one that I'm working on, this is gonna be my best effort ever. Like a family album. Each block means something special to me. My grandmother's pattern is in this quilt, my mama's, my aunts, and my sisters, and my daughters, and my friends, and many more. They're all in there. So is this great prairie land we live in. As my papa used to say, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here.
This was a piece of my wedding dress, love and laughter and tenderness, and this spring muslin color of morn. I wore right after my child was born. Wore it after our John was born. Pieces of lives, patches and tatters, all of the precious, the little, the matter of our lives. Stitches and secrets, pieces of women's lives, pieces of lives, patches, patches and tatters, all of the precious, the little, the matter of our lives. Pieces of lives, satin and trimming, pieces of women's lives. Pieces of life, sketches and notions, all the unspoken emotion, devotion of our lives. Pieces of life, stitches and secrets, pieces of women's lives.
We're gonna put this quilt together, block by block. Each block is different. Each one has a thread of someone's life running through it. You'll see my thread in there from time to time, along with all the others. My memories, my hopes, my dreams, my prayers. It's my legacy quilt. My dear daughters, I know my time is running out, and that I am surely piecing my last quilt.
I've set to piecing all the patterns that have some special meaning to me, a different one for every block.
And if it be God's mercy to let me complete it, it will belong to you.
I've been a hard worker all my life.
But most all a woman's work is the kind that perishes with the using, as the Bible says.
All the work I've got to leave behind me.
And I've got to leave something behind me.
Is just my quilts. I hope that you'll take special care of this last one and use it well.
I trust that you'll be able to read what's written in it.
In some ways, it's your own story.
Block 1, the rocky road to Kansas.
To Oklahoma!
To Colorado!
To New Mexico.
To California!
Where the sun always shines and the fruit grows wild. Rocky road, you're a calling to me. There's a better life at hand. Or the rocky road through the prairie sea. I am bound for Canaan's land. Rocky road.
Westward ho!
Day upon day, we moved through the prairie without seeing so much as a tree. Looked like nothing at all was up ahead, clear to the edge of the earth.
At first it was all grass and sky, and then a long stretch of gray dust came. Nothing but gray and brown, nothing but dust and tumbleweeds blowing.
Dust covered everything, and everything tasted of dust.
Past 2 new graves.
Then the cold set in. The
icy rain, and hailstones big as rocks, and all the big rocks you had to move to make the road. That's what they meant by Rocky Road West.
3 old graves, 2 new ones.
A baby was born.
The snow came, footing was treacherous, and it slowed us down to a crawl. And those winter nights fell down upon you as sudden as that, and silent.
Now and again, you hear something off in the distance. Coyotes, Indians, anything you were afraid of. But there's children with you, so you didn't let on.
7 graves.
1 marker. Those nights we set up in the wagon, piece and quilts, all of us. We would need as many as we could turn out for the long frost ahead.
Day upon day, we moved out of the long stretch of gray into the whiteness.
When we stopped upon this plot, I hopped out to see where we had gone. I looked around, and as far as the eye could see, there was nothing. Emptiness. It was so lonely, I wondered how could a human endure. Way off in the distance, I thought I could make out smoke. People, I thought.
Block 2, the dugout. Our first home out here was a dugout, with just one large single room carved underground. The funny thing about that dugout was I never got the feeling like Mama said about feeling closed in down there.
To me, being just a little thing, it was the safest place in the world. Many a wind got rode out down there. You know, all I can remember from way back was the light playing on the low ceiling and Mama's back bent over her sewing next to the lamp. I slept with my sister back then, and she must have loved me, because on the coldest mornings, she'd take my clothes and she'd warm them by the fire, and when they were good and warm, she'd stuff them under the quilts next to me so I could get dressed up warm. You didn't have a lot of space back then, but you did have your family all around you. Come to think of it, I don't remember any troubles or distress from those earlier times, although the grown-ups did feel it. There was a lot of stories about rough times when they first settled. I had my 7th birthday in a dugout in the dead of winter. Papa, sister, and me, we all moved west to kind of make a fresh start after Mama had died. When the blizzard hit us, it was 30 below. We all slept together under a stack of quilts. Then we piled everything we could find on top of us, but you just couldn't get warm. Sister got really bad. One of us, either Papa or me, had to always be tending the fire. That night, we could hear the cows outside the door bleating and moaning something awful. Then one by one, we could hear them dropping. Pa? Where you going? Pa? Little birds that sleep all night. Remember? Mama used to sing that. Little babes that sleep all night, smile in the face of sorrow. Little birds that sleep all night, sing carols on the morrow. The cows froze, Polly. All the cows are dead. Papa's skinning them now. Don't worry, I'll keep the fire going good. Papa's thrown the cowhides on the roof to keep out the cold. That should help some. I wish I could sleep through this like you do. Are you thirsty? You want some water? I'll get you some fresh snow to drink. Here you go, Polly. It's probably cold already. Polly? Polly, take it. Take it. Please take it. I know you want it. You haven't had anything to eat for 2 days. Please take it. I don't want to open your mouth. I don't want to catch it. just set it here on your chest. Mama! Why did you have to leave us? What do I do? Polly! Why does everyone have to go away all the time? Mama! Polly! Get up! Wake up! Get up! Wake up! Get up! Wake up! Papa promised, just as soon as the storm lets up, we were gonna bury you proper.
Smile in the face of sorrow. Children come.
Grab the needle. Way back before I was even old enough to quilt, my mama and my older sisters would be quilting, and us little ones had to keep their needles threaded. We were out playing in the yard, and she'd holler out to us.
Children come. Grab the needle, grab the needle. Keep 'em all going. Grab the needle. Come, keep 'em all going. Keep 'em all going. Keep 'em all going. Don't take the rake out the fingers and the stitches. Thread up the sharps and the in-between. Sharp, sharp, in between, sharp. In between, sharp, sharp, in between. Stick 'em in the middle of the quilted frame, and then go out and play your game. Stick 'em in the middle of the quilted frame, and then go out and play your game. Then go out and children come. Grab the needle, children.
Block 3.
Baby's blocks.
Remember when we was little and we had those dark comforts made from overalls and wool trousers on the bed? Well, sometimes the neighbor woman would come in and quilt with Mama, and them quilts was always real pretty.
Once a week, Teddy would haul Mama's big old bed frame down into the kitchen, and it was always quite a big job.
He never minded it though.
There was never more than 4 women working at a time because there was never room for more.
We'd be standing in the doorway with our thumbs in our mouths watching them.
Waiting and waiting for them to leave because we were so hungry.
How
but
we
it wasn't polite to ask. But it wasn't polite to ask for food while the neighbors were around.
How we envied them pretty bright colored quilts.
Finally, I got up the courage to ask Mama if we could please keep one of them, and she said we could make do with what we had.
Others needed them more. And then you burst into tears.
They took all the pretty quilts down to the First Baptist Church. They was for the poor people and the foreign missions.
If someone lost their house to a fire or a twister, all the women would go with a stack of quilts and say, "These quilts is from the ladies of the First Baptist Church."
Children come. Grab the needle, children.
I remember like it was yesterday, my first quilt. Mama had one of them frames that swung out from over the bed. She quilted for others to pay our way. Sometimes she'd take one down at night if she was done with it, and we'd wait until the next morning to put the next one in, but that's all it ever was. Mama was a beautiful quilter. She had the smallest stitches and the smallest feet in the whole county. Everybody knew it. And she never let nobody else touch her quilts. Now sometimes if she was done working for the day on a piece that she liked a lot herself, she would pin a cloth over it so nobody could see it till she was done. I longed to work with Mama, and I can tell you just how plain I recall the day she said,
Sarah, you come quilt with me now if you want to.
I was too short to sit in a chair and reach the frame, so I just got my needle and thread and I stood beside her. I pushed that needle through and then out again and then down, and my stitches was about 3 inches long. Papa came in about that time.
Florence, that child is flat ruining your quilt.
She's doing no kind of a thing. She's quilting her first quilt.
Well, you're just gonna have to rip it all out tonight.
Them stitches is gonna be in that quilt when it wears out.
All the time they was talking, my stitches was getting shorter and shorter.
Keep 'em all going, keep 'em all going, keep 'em all going, keep
something. Now, this here is my scrap bag. It's filled with all kinds of fabrics that I've been saving through the years, all different sizes and colors and textures. Seems like somebody from our family is always appearing out of this bag. Ooh, here's one I haven't seen for a while. Now this here was your great Aunt Mildred's Sunday go-to-meeting dress. Lord, but that woman could sing high. You know that voice, you could always pick out her voice in the choir, you know that one that's always just a little too high? That was your Aunt Millie. Now, when I'm making a quilt top, I will take this fabric and I will cut it into triangles and squares and other shapes. They fit together like a puzzle to make the pattern that I want. Then I sew all those together, and that is called
Quilting.
no, piecing. Now, when I have finished the quilt top, I will put the bottom lining into the frame, I will put the cotton batting in the middle, and I will lay my quilt top over it all. Then I sew all 3 layers together, and that is called
Quilting?
right. And when you're a really good quilter, you can get 11 stitches to the inch. Would you like to keep that?
Yes, please.
It's yours. Now I have a lot of these bags made up and they're all sorted out real neat. So if you should ever need anything and I'm not here, you should have no trouble. Well, now these here are my darks. I always have plenty of darks. I use them when I needed a shaded area in a block. That log cabin pattern uses lots of these. And sometimes I will set off a bright piece of fabric against a dark square block of cloth, but with no pattern to it. Some people call that a plain block. I call it a shadow block.
God bless this baby.
Lord knows, honey, when I was a child, I was never inside quilting. I was the one that ran out and stayed gone most of the day. The prairie provided us kids with all the toys we could ever want. And with that big playground, I couldn't be cooped up in no home. Block 4, the rubble patch.
morning and the evening of the second day. And then I picks up a frog from the peas and bag, from the scraps of my Sunday best. And then I quick whip up a Cornelia's stone, and on the third day I get 'em wedded and blessed. And on the morning and the evening of the fourth day, and of the fifth day, and of the sixth day, there be dozens of nubbins for corn cob babies, and on the seventh day they rest.
So much begat.
Ay, 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 ay. A new Cornelia corn cob doll would be created every fall, and I could pretty much make her up pretty from almost nothing, nothing at all, nothing at all. And I'd be primping her up till she'd be tired of primping. It was the morning and the evening, every morning, every evening, every morning, every evening of the winter's day. La 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 Cornelia.
My greatest ambition in life is to become a doctor like my father. And I'm my father's girl. My greatest accomplishment was when I was 10, and I was successful in chopping off the head of a chicken and preparing it for chicken dinner. My mom always tries to get me to do quilting, but I told her, never in my life will I prick my fingers till they bleed. Very definitely. And my sister Florrie's a good quilter, I guess. That's what Mama always told me. Ever since Mama taught Florrie how to do applique blocks, my sister's favorite has been the sunbonnet suit. Oh, you've seen them. They're the little dolls with big old sunbonnets turned sideways. Florrie makes each one of them different. And this one, I'll have her foot turned this way or that, or she'll have a parasol, or her hat will be crooked. She's made probably about a dozen of them now. There's little sunbonnet suit quilts all over our house. She made one for everybody in our family, and she's made some for her friends. And get this, last year when we got promoted in school, she even gave one to our teacher. I mean, I almost died, and she's still at it. So, I decided I was gonna make my own quilt. Like I said, I'm not so much of a good quilter, but I knew exactly what I wanted to make. It's small, twin bed size, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I made each block different, just like Florrie does. I suppose I did something different with sunbonnet suit. I call it the demise of sunbonnet suit. In one, she's hanging, one with a knife in her chest, eaten by a frog, by a snake, caught on fire, struck by lightning. And I think it turned out real good. I'm pretty proud of it. Oh no! I think you should really see it.
I'll tell you what held your life in this country.
A windmill.
No life without it. I remember it clear, and I was just a little tyke when we moved out near Run and Water Draw. And that's a funny name too, because Run and Water Draw never had no water in it. Well, except in a great while when it would rain and they would just flood all over the place.
The funny thing about a windmill block is it doesn't have any circles in it. A circle is a lot harder to cut and sew than a straight edge piece. I've made a Dresden plate ones that like to never circle. I had them middle edges off about a 1/16 of an inch. My papa made a wooden windmill when I was a little girl. He had the same problem.
Now our daddy, he dug his mill right in the middle of the draw because he figured, well, the water wouldn't be so hard to reach down there. And up on top, he couldn't have dug it himself. Now what he didn't figure on was the sand down there was kindly like quicksand, and it kept seeping back up into the well. Even now, I don't know if I'm more afraid of quicksand or scorpions. When the wind would blow, the pump would pump water right into always covered with this green mossy stuff. Well, I'll never forget the way it smelled, nor the way my face looked in the water. From about the time I was 10 years old, it was my job to hang a bucket on the spout, and then I had to climb the tower if there was no wind. I got to turn the wheel by hand.
Wheel in the wheel in the wheel in the wheel, way in the middle of the end.
Oh, how beautiful the wind will be once I got it finished. Standing up against the sky, it meant water, you know. It looked pretty just by itself. The top turning this way and that, whirling around. Daddy's hand cut a circle in the sky. Daddy's hand made a windmill, and up in the attic where we moved, it seemed bigger than the moon. Our wagon would have sang for sore eyes, and we would drift to sleep to the whirring lullaby. Let me spin you in my wooden arms all around the world. Daddy's wheel made a circle that joined the wind to the earth below, giving life, pumping water, and causing the living things to grow. Now me and you, snuggling spoons, and oh how many tunes it played, and we would drift to sleep to the whirring of the You know, I've seen a grown man flung 30 feet to the ground if a wind happened to come up when he was up on top. Me? I'd just grab a hold and I'd ride the thing round and round until the wind would let me off. Come on in, I'll spin you. Let me spin you in my wooden arms all around the world. Let me spin you in my wooden arms. Daddy's hands, Daddy's hands, Daddy's hands, Daddy's hands.
I'll tell you what held your life in this country.
A windmill! Block 6.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul. My daddy was a Baptist preacher. I reckon that's how come I'm so ornery today. But I remember the funniest day one time when I was a young girl. Mama was getting ready to help me start my quilts for my hope chest. We got the scrap bag out and laid them all on the bed and tried to kind of fit the colors together right. The bag was running real low. Well, Mama, we sure haven't gotten any new scraps in a long time. Seems like everybody at church is using their own and none have come our way.
You just come into town with me and your papa on Saturday. We'll get a few pieces of brighter calico for you.
Come Saturday, true to her word, we went into town with Papa. He went over to the feed store and we went to the dry goods. We picked up these 3 pieces of remnant blue and we're just fingering some red calico.
You better just be planning on enough of those middle pieces. You know what your father will say.
Papa come in behind us then, and I guess he saw us looking. He just walked right up to the clerk like he wasn't with us.
Say, how much is on that bolt?
20 yards.
I'll take it off.
He took that whole bolt of red calico and carried it to the wagon. 20 yards of red. Can you imagine? A Baptist preacher just like any other man likes that red?
And I quote Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10. For who could love a more virtuous woman, whose price is far above rubies? She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands, and she perceiveth that her merchandise is good.
Amen.
For she is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed in scarlet.
Amen.
Give her the fruit of your hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates.
Amen. We had read for a long, long time after that. Shadow block.
Baptism.
Have you been to Jesus for the cleansing power? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? Are you fully trusting in His grace this hour? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
I baptize you, Joy Lee Davis, in the name of Jesus Christ.
Washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb.
I baptize you in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost.
Are your garments spotless? Are they white as snow? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?
What's your name, child?
I was baptized Elizabeth Mary. My family and friends call me Lizzie, but none of them was the name I was born with. Lot 7, the butterfly. Mama, look what I found.
Lizzie, where'd you get that?
Out in the shed, I was looking for some tools. Whose is it?
Yours?
Did you make it?
No.
Who did then?
It was made by your natural mother, Lizzie. She didn't live long enough to finish it.
Who was she?
Nobody knows much about her, just a little about the time before she died.
Can I know?
Admitted, March 27th, female, approximately 18 years of age, destitute. Found wandering the road carrying 2 infants. Female, approximately 9 months old. Male, approximately 3 days old. Deceased.
There were these women called Prairie Nightingales. They would help out because there were so few doctors around. They found her and took her to the hospital.
What's your name, child? Where's your people? Can you speak? Well, let's have a look. Oh, easy now, easy. Jaws are locked, trauma symptoms.
You'd read about that sometimes, with young mothers having too many babies too fast,
That little one's gonna need some rest.
or too many troubles.
Come on now, give him over to me. We'll take good care of him. You know you have to.
Did I stay with her in the hospital?
She couldn't take care of you. They took you to the county orphanage and buried the baby.
My brother.
Patient discovered this morning with hair cut down to the scalp. Skirt, petticoats, and bed sheets ripped up. A search for the instrument proves inconclusive. I'll stay with her now, Mrs. Bonham.
Mrs. Bonham?
The patient is sewing the scraps of her garments together. A close watch is being kept until we can relieve her of her tools. She works feverishly. You know, when I first came out west, I was carrying my firstborn. Many nights I was all alone and I'd see a dust storm rolling right at me. I'd run inside and light the kerosene lamp, but then that wind would start its wailing. I probably would have lost my mind if it weren't for the kissing. There's a certain yellow light, and suddenly everything's quiet, and the dust came toward you, rising and rolling, wanting to wrap you excited. It was dark and cold when the sand hit, and you'd wake up or be alive. It was
not given up hope. One day she'll tell us what happened. A few months on, we heard that she had passed away and asked about you. They brought you out from the nursery in this untidy little bundle with big blue eyes staring right up at us.
Did she ever speak? Did they ever find out about my father? Or what my real name was?
No,
How old was I when you got me?
about a year. It was hard to tell. Lizzie,
Yes, Mama?
I was about to tell you real soon. You know you're no different than our own flesh and blood. You know that, right?
I know.
Look here. She took 4 stitches at a time before pulling it through. Sick as she was, 4 stitches at a time. All these years, and I never had the heart to put my needle to it.
When I was alone, I looked hard. It was real worn out, not very pretty. It had a single butterfly up in the corner. 4 stitches in a space, 4 stitches in a space. Then down near the bottom, the stitches started getting bigger and going all over the place. I turned it over. I could see something printed through the lining. Maybe Mom left me a message. My name or hers.
What's your name, child? Where's your people? What's your name, child?
Caused by infant death.
Chippewa State Asylum.
Suicide.
A piece of bed sheet. I tacked the thing up. I didn't want to destroy it, so I stuffed the batting back in and stashed it. I didn't want Mama to find out. Now, every day, I'm sewing a little bit of it back together. 4 stitches in a pole, 4 stitches in a pole. It's slow going.
This was a piece of my history, my rough schoolhouse, and a teacher named Miss Jessie.
Block 8, schoolhouse.
Pieces of children's lives.
I really settled into quilting at the Hunter School. Miss Jessie, who taught all of our subjects, was very interested in that sort of thing.
I am pleased to announce to you, children, that I have just received permission from the school board to add the subject of geography to our course of study. You will be the first students at this school ever to have this opportunity. Before we open that wonderful new door, however, we will begin, as usual, with 45 minutes of needlework.
She called it needlework, but we each had to make our own handmade quilt that year. We had to piece and quilt the whole thing by ourselves, and she was very particular about the stitching and the colors. And if you didn't have the right kind of color, she'd send you to her piece bag, and she always had the most wonderful materials. It meant a little piece of Miss Jessie in your quilt.
Oh, straight and true, oh, straight and true.
Straight and true and even.
These are the guidelines for needlework. It is an art, and it requires your best effort. Take as much care with your design as if you were painting or drawing, and if it is wrong, rip it out. Oh, Millicent, that orange just simply will not do. It is vile.
Vile.
Please go to my piece bag and find something more suitable. Cyrus Jackson, what is the meaning of this disturbance? Kindly sit down and resume your piecing. Well, that's very lovely, Clara. Lily, I can see your stitching from over here, and it is as crooked as the teeth of a jack-o'-lantern. You will remove